Hello guys, welcome to episode 53 of the Switch Indie Fix podcast, a podcast dedicated to everything indie on the Nintendo Switch. As always, I'm your host Adam, and today joining me on the podcast, as you can see live on Twitch, is Darth. Darth, how are you on this Monday evening or afternoon, I guess, for you?
It's afternoon, yeah, I'm very good today.
Yeah, cool. So today we have a bit of a special episode for you. We are going to be talking about the best roguelites or slash roguelikes on a Nintendo Switch. But before we do have some news. Not so much, but enough to keep you all you indie game fans interested. But before we get into that, let me tell you about our brand spanking new Patreon. If you like the Switch Indie Fix podcast and the other content we create for Switch Indie Fix, please consider becoming a Patreon by going to patreon.com/Switch Indie Fix. Supporting us at a $1 tier will get your name read out at the end of the show. And as always, just a gentle reminder, we do need your questions for the podcast. If you have any questions and you are watching live, please at me and ask your question, and we will end them at the end of the show. If Bunsy's watching along, it would be cool if... Yeah, I guess no. There's no way she could actually point them out. But anyway, just at me and I'll find them later. If you are not and you are listening to the podcast later, you can always go to switchindiefix.com/SIF podcast. That's a Google sheet. You can put the questions in there. You can also ask us on Discord. There is a Discord channel for the podcast, and you can join up by going to switchindiefix.com/Discord, or you can hit us up on Twitter, which is mine is at least at Switch Indie Fix, and Darth, yours is?
At Darth.
Yes, at Darth. Good. So as always, we will start our podcast with the indie game news, and today, Darth, we have a measly one item on the news list this week, and that makes
one baker's bun.
A baker's bun, a lonely baker's bun. Yeah. So this week, I think, I don't know why, but I feel like indie game news or the wider indie game news is quite quiet. We do have some new games of note, some heads up, and some physical therapy. But yeah, actual news stories, I couldn't really find much. The one interesting story I did find was, is the eShop turning into Steam? And when we say that, we mean that in a bad way, I guess. Before we get into the story though, Daph, what do you think of like the eShop and how it's kind of developed over the last 3 years?
Clutter. A lot of clutter.
Yeah.
I think they just allow any kind of game to go in there, and just they don't really catalog or any way of showing things. So the only best way of finding things is if games go on sale or the top purchased games. So a lot of games will go on sale and then they'll get shoved to the top of the list, go back to normal price, and then you're saying, why is this game on number 5 on the list when it's like a game we never heard of?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just like so hard to find games you're looking for. Like,
yeah, I'd agree. Like I've been for the stream, I've been looking for like newer games where I'm like, okay, maybe people are looking for content on them. And it's just amazing that the games that you have heard of, how quickly they get pushed down the current releases. If you're looking straight at the eShop, it was like I was looking for Void Bastards the other day, and it was just between, I think, the Thursday that it came out and the Friday night when I was streaming, there was so many just random games. And I agree with you that it is becoming hard to find what you want. But yeah, this story kind of fits into that theme of, people can just put whatever they want on there, because a lot of gamer anger was caused last week when a small indie game called The Bullet, Time of Revenge was released on a Nintendo eShop. Usually these smaller games don't cause too much of a stir, but this one had a dark past behind it. So this next part of the story comes from Ryan Craddock at Nintendo Life. I was a bit pushed for time, so I couldn't rewrite it myself, but I think Ryan did a good job. So if you do want to read his full report, go to Nintendo Life and check it out. So Ryan writes, despite seeming like a cheap and cheerful release on the surface, The Bullet, Time of Revenge has been causing quite the stink online since launch. It turns out that this new Grand Theft Auto-like release appears to be what's known as an asset flip, whereby a developer can legally buy a pre-made asset pack to do nothing to change it other than give it a new title and release it into the world to make a profit. We actually ran a piece on the practice a few years ago when it became clear that the prolific Wii U eShop developer RCMADIAX, I guess you would pronounce it, was simply changing the title screens on game builder kits and selling them on Nintendo's digital storefront. In this case, the asset pack in question is known as Hammer 2 Reloaded. Anyone can go ahead and buy the full game and its assets for $50. The idea is that the beginner game devs can buy this. The idea is that beginner game devs can buy to this to have a starting point and learn their way around customizing an already built world to make their own game. In this case, it appears the developers have simply bought the pack and uploaded the game as if it were their own. Here's what Hammer 2 looks like. So then there's a video. So yeah, from the game, it looks like it's like a kind of semi-open world, Grand Theft Auto, like where you go around with guns and blow stuff up. Darth, you're a developer. Do you want to kind of explain, because it says in Ryan's article that it's an asset flip. What exactly is an asset flip? Like what is an asset in video game development sense?
Asset could be anything. Asset is usually like what you see in the world. So like the character or the buildings are all assets technically. So they probably just bought this pack and changed the textures or change something to make it not look like what they purchased.
They didn't even do that.
Yeah. So it's not really an asset flip. It's just they purchased the rights to like on Unity, they have a huge asset store, and the idea is exactly that. If Unity even has like download this pack so you can learn how to make a rogue like kind of game, or buy this pack to make like a dungeon defense. Yeah. So it's easy to give you all the assets for it, and then the idea is that here's some simple code, and then you have to elaborate on it to create what you want.
Yeah, so it's kind of
a lot of these are basic games.
So it's kind of like a skeleton that people are supposed to build upon to make their own game. That's actually what Rune Storm said, the guy who's making Knife Boy. He said he bought a 2D platformer asset off Unity, and then so they basically had the mechanics already there. There was like the jumping mechanic, whatever mechanics were already there, and I think also like a save. And because he was like, he didn't know how to do that stuff, so he just bought it, and then he redid all the art, redid the story, did everything, but had this frame from the Unity store which he built his game on. And that's the difference between what like a developer usually does and what these developers do. And this is kind of prolific on Steam, these asset flips, because people can just buy the assets, the game, the full game and everything within the game, just republish it under a different name or under a different title. Yeah. And then, as far as the Nintendo eShop is concerned, it is a new game, even though the game has already been out on multiple systems, developed or published by multiple developers over the last 5 years. And I think it's kind of an important story, because we are getting into that point where the Nintendo eShop is kind of gone through that stage of not really having much to having everything, and there been like a boom in indie games, and every indie game going on there seemed to make money. And now we're starting to hear stories of indie games losing money. And I think this is also kind of like the next step is like, okay, well, Nintendo it seems to be very laissez-faire with it, and even though you do technically need a publisher to get a game on the eShop, there must also be workarounds where if you're a publisher on Steam, then maybe it's easier to get your game on the eShop. Like that's maybe what these guys did. They published this game, this asset flip on Steam, and we're like, oh well, we have experience publishing on Steam, so we're a publisher. Can we publish it on the eShop? And Nintendo was just like, yeah, okay, why not? I was just gonna ask, do you think it matters though, like that the game is an asset flip? Like, I think it's priced at about $4.99 on the eShop. So you're like, oh, it's cheap and cheerful. Who cares? They legally own the rights to it. Like, does it matter that they're putting these type of games out on the eShop?
I think it's more. I think it's more on Nintendo or whoever should look at these games and say, should we want this on our system? Mm-hmm. Right? Because if like, anytime you can't look at every single game, but at least should have some eyes on it and like knowing the publisher and what have they done kind of thing, right? And like it feels like it's just getting cluttered. Like this game here, like again, it also comes down to the consumer to do the research too. Yeah. Right? Like,
and that's kind of the I think the people that lose out are the consumers. Like, so I guess some people are just happy to be like, oh yeah, it looks like GTA and it's a $5, I'll buy it. But I think it's also, like I've seen on Twitter, a lot of other like fellow Switch, like smaller Switch content creators, like, oh yeah, I reviewed this game, and then people get giving them a lot of hate on Twitter because it's like, oh, it's an asset flip, and it's like, well, you know, the only reason I found out about this game was because Jim Sterling made a Jimquisition about it, or a Jim Impressions or something. So I was kind of like, all right, and looked for it and was like, oh yeah, it's definitely there. But if you're not really into like the Steam gaming sphere or anything, then you probably don't know this. You just see it as like, oh yeah, it's a cheap and cheerful game that looks okay. But yeah, I just think it's an interesting story that it is happening to the Switch, because like I say, when I talk to developers, when I go to like the Game City here in Vienna and talk to like the Austrian developers, they all say, yeah, it's not as easy as everyone thinks to get a game on the eShop. But then this seems to keep on happening, that these asset flips just get put on there, and people can buy them pretty much with ease. And as Kapaya says in the chat, always double check a game before you buy it, I'd say. I think you're right, Kapaya, but like I don't know, I feel like a younger gamer or a kid is like, oh well, I have £5 and this game is £5, I'm just gonna buy it. And I guess that's kind of the audience that maybe these developers are going for. But yeah. But anyway, so that's just a head up for all of you guys at home also, if you have been looking at this game. Bunzi says the biggest problems that I can see happening is that if these asset flips become a thing on the Switch, they will overflood it like they have on Steam. I think she means Steam, and it can become oversaturated. Yeah, and I think that's what you were saying before, right, Darth? It already is hard to find games what you want with actual games that have been made from the ground up.
And what's going to happen too is that this game probably in a week from now we'll probably see that 12 cents a buck, because they don't care, right? Because they only bought it for $50. Bring it down on sale to really cheap, so a lot of people buy it then.
Yeah.
And then they're going to hit a top 10 list, and when it hits a top 10 list, they're going to bring it back to normal price. So someone who doesn't really do the research be like, oh, this game's number 5 on top selling games on the Switch.
Yeah.
Let me buy it. It's only $5.
Yeah.
And that's where the issue comes in, is that it's oversaturation of these games that are just fluff, are just filler. It's like like going on your phone and going through the App Store and be like, just 50 games here, and they all look the same, and they all look like, which one should I buy?
Yeah, they all have the same icon, the same key art. And I know what you mean. But how do you think Nintendo could fix this?
I think looking at publishers, looking at what they've done before, and seeing like, this guy's been putting these games on Steam, and these are just hacked together messes, right? Like, and it's hard also because like, for them it looks like a game, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so that is a head up for you guys. I'd be interested to know if any of you have tried out the game. I was considering trying it out, just to see, like, and maybe doing like a trying out video just to talk about it a bit more. But I was like, yeah, I'd rather not give these people my money. So it's definitely an interesting story. One to watch out about. And like I said, the game's called The Bullet Revenge, Time of Revenge, and you can look up the asset flip called, what's it called again? Hammer 2, which it is the exact same thing. There's no changes. It's like, do you think the game would be more accepted if maybe they put a new skin on it? Like if it was the exact same game with a slightly different look? Do you think
potentially?
Yeah.
I mean, but that technically is a real asset flip.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think the issue is that it's not just that, is that change in some way, but you feel like these guys are just like lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't care.
Yeah.
And then
I think that's it. Like it feels predatory. It's like, okay, they've done the minimum amount of work they needed to do, and then they're just like, well, it's probably gonna get taken down anyway, like because of someone's gonna find it, like Jim Sterling, and be like, yeah, F this shouldn't happen, and then Nintendo probably will take it down. But by then they've definitely made at least the $50 that it cost them for this to buy this asset pack. So
and I'm just gonna keep doing this in like Steam and stuff, right? Like,
yeah, but at least in Steam there's like a price, an entry price. Like you have to pay. Yeah. Is it $100 or $1,000 to get like a publishing license on Steam? So at least there, you know, there's like some upfront costs that you have to scramble together. It's not like I could just go to Unity, download the pack, upload it on Steam, and be like, oh yeah, I'm making money now, because I'd have to at least put some money into it. But yeah, like I said,
fair enough.
It's been a slow news week, and I just think this was an interesting story, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think. But yeah, so that was the end of our main news section, but we do have some heads up. The first one is a game called Weaving Tides by Follow Feathers reached its Kickstarter goal and will therefore be coming to the Switch. It still has 12 days left if you're interested in backing the game, and it's an adventure game where you ride dragons and solve stitch/knitting puzzles, and is made in Austria. I actually played this game at one of the gaming events in Austria. It's really cool, really like unique. Like I say, it's kind of, I guess you'd describe it kind of like, like Pixel Cross, where you kind of making your puzzles you have to make art, but in Pixel Cross it's with pixels. In this, it's like you're weaving in between different yarns of thread, and then eventually you make a picture. And Bun says Picross. Yeah, maybe it is Picross.
Yeah, Picross is like the most well known.
Yeah.
One like that, but yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting one if you want to look it up on Kickstarter. Next up is Annapurna Interactive have a sale on the US eShop, which includes titles like Florence, Kentucky Route Zero, and Telling Lies. The sale ends on March 28th, so if anyone is waiting on any Annapurna Interactive games, now would be the time to buy them. I can highly recommend Florence, and I know John, who reviewed Kentucky Route Zero, I think he gave it a 10 out of 10 on the website. So
a lot of people love that game.
Yeah, so definitely, if you're looking for a kind of cool artsy game with a good story, then I think that's definitely worth buying. And next up, one bit of news that I really liked is that Paper Castle, who are the developers of Underhero, teased their new characters from their new game. The characters are called Ringo, who is it looks a bit like a humanoid wolf, kind of like a werewolf, and Apple, who looks like a kick-ass girl with red hair, and both of them kind of are doing very martial art poses. Really cool bit of art, and the thing I liked the most about the art was that it reminds me of like the early Dragon Ball Z anime, like the colors that they use and the shapes of the eyes and the way the muscles are kind of drawn. So I'm really excited for that. I loved Underhero. Have you tried it out, Underhero, Duff?
Nope.
No,
it's the first time I heard of it.
Really? Oh, mate, it's a great game. It's probably my favorite game of 2020 so far, indie game that I've played. And it's kind of like its battle mechanics are kind of similar to Paper Mario, and its story is kind of like Undertale-y, hence the name Underhero. But really cool game. So I'm excited to see what they're doing next. And then we move on to new games of note. First up is Team 17 is partnering with Navigante to bring the charming single-player adventure Greek Memories of Azure to the Switch, but with no solid release date yet. Then we have Pineapple Works announced that they are working with Bradley Elliott to bring his game The Cork to the Switch. Action RPG mixed with roguelike elements Gungeon is coming to the Switch in 2020, announced P-Cube earlier this week. They also announced that Pokemon-like Nexomon Extinction will be coming to the Switch in summer, with over 300 unique Nexomon to trap, tame, and evolve. Did you look at the video for this?
Nope. For which one?
Nexomon Extinction.
So that's the Pokemon-like, right?
Yeah. It's. I think the game came out on what's it called? On Android. Steam? Is it on Steam as well? I think I think it was a mobile game at first, and it definitely has like a mobile game feel to it, like the way it looks and the at least the animations. I was considering getting it on mobile, but I was like, I'd like to.
Yeah, it is on Steam also.
Yeah, I'd like to experience it on the Switch. Bunzi says she used to play it. What did you think of it, Bunzi? Is it worth picking up when it comes to the Switch? But yeah, I've kind of got an itch again for Pokemon, or like a Pokemon-like game. The
DLC's out soon.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Yeah,
she won't recommend it.
She doesn't. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, the game I really want is Temtem. Like the more I see of Temtem, I'm like, oh god, I can't wait till it comes to the Switch. But yeah, you're right. The DLC is out in June, right? Or is it June? Yeah. The first one? Yeah.
Should be. Who knows now?
Yeah, true. Cool.
And I think that's the biggest reason why there's no use of indie games too at the moment.
Yeah.
We're hitting the point now where we're 2 months into this essentially, and no one's going to release games at the moment. It's harder to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah, Bunzi says Temtem looks infinitely better than an Nexomon game. Yeah, I agree, Bunzi. But I just have that itch where I'm like, I want like Pokemon mechanics, but I don't necessarily want to play Pokemon right now. But I think I will be trying it out And yeah, let's see when it comes out in the summer. Might not even come out this year with like Darth says. And the final new game of note is for you artists out there. Colors Live is live on Kickstarter. It's an art-based game that comes included with a pressure-sensitive pen, so you can draw whatever you'd like on the Switch. It's already smashed its goal on Kickstarter, and there's still 24 days to go. This looks really, really cool, I think. You basically, I think the starter set is $40 or €40 on Kickstarter. And you get a stylus that you plug in, I think, via the headphone jack on your Switch. And then you can use the stylus to actually draw on the Switch's screen. And the game, it's like like an art kind of, like Microsoft Paint. But it's also like gamified. So there's like a story to it. Then what you have to draw your way through and stuff. And I just think it's cool because I actually want to get into like digital art, but I just don't want to buy one of these pads yet. So I'm like, if I can get this for $40 on the Switch, and if I get into it, then maybe I'm like, then I'll upgrade to a different pad. So if you are into art and you're into drawing, then that's kind of cool. Like I said, the Kickstarter still has 24 days to go, and I think €40 for the game and the stylus isn't a bad price either. And rounding up the news, we have, as always, our physical therapy. This news section, I should say, the news section that is music to the ears of all you Switch physical collectors out there. First up, we have Limited Run have their Shantae and the Seven Sirens pre-orders open. Is that the new one, the Seven Sirens? The new one that's
pretty sure. Bunsy could probably tell us.
What was the one? There was the latest one was Half Genie Hero, right? And
yes, it is new. It's a new one.
Yeah, that is the new one. Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was the new one or the one before Half Genie Hero.
I never played those games.
You've not played them? Oh, they're good. They're cool games as well. But yeah, so the pre-orders are now open. The Limited Collector's Edition includes the game, a set of trading cards, a Shantae plushie, and more, and costs $69.99. And the pre-orders are open for 4 weeks. Then we have the creators of Pod announced the Artist Edition, which will include the game, a coloring book, a paper craft set, which looks really cool. I think Pod is kind of like a multiplayer puzzle game, and the art set is like paper that makes the characters and like a little kind of diorama of one of the levels. It's really cool, like really unique for a physical edition. You get some fancy stickers and lots more. The release date is to be announced, and so is the price. And finally, the last story I could find was I Am 8-Bit announced that they are creating a physical edition of Creature in the Well. If you're interested, you'll have to act fast, as there are only 2,000 copies. And yeah, it's not confirmed yet, but if you are a physical Switch collector, you definitely want to be around for next week's show, because we have someone maybe coming on who has a lot of sway on physical games on the Switch. So so keep an eye out on our social media, on Discord, on Twitter, for that if it does actually work. But as of yet, I'm almost speaking German. As of now, it's set for Saturday, I think. But yeah, that was the news. Not a lot of indie game news this week. But yeah, I think I'd be interested to hear what you listeners think of the what is it called? The Bullet Time of Revenge. Was that the name of the game?
Maybe.
Yeah, Bullet Time of Revenge story. And if you think asset flips should be allowed on the Nintendo eShop. I'd also like to know what you guys actually think of the Nintendo eShop. If you think it's getting better because there is more choice, or if you're thinking it's getting worse because there is more choice, let us know by going to the Discord, switchindiefix.com/Discord, or you can hit us up on Twitter at switchindiefix and Darth at DarthStridius. So section 2, which is our real kind of meat of the podcast this week, is going to be about the best roguelikes on the Nintendo Switch. But first, before we get into that, I would like to tell you that this episode of the Switch Indie Fix podcast is brought to you by the Switch Indie Fix store. If you fancy some Switch Indie Fix merch, then we've got it. T-shirts, hoodies, and mugs to make you look like a legendary SIF fan. Interested? Then go to switchindiefix.com/store. And I am actually currently working on some new merch, so it's still in like the test phases. I want to see how it looks, but yeah, there might be some new stuff coming, so keep an eye out for that too. So Darth, in your opinion, or like in your head, what would you class a roguelike to be a like? Because I think people, including myself, get very confused between a roguelike and a roguelite. So I'm interested to see what you think. I have the term written down on Wikipedia, but in your kind of opinion, what is a roguelike?
Well, the game that it's a game that you always, when you're dying to try and get better.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's short bursts of gameplay, and you're always usually you always see the same thing, but you're getting more powerful as you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times, it depends on what weapons you get, you unlock, or what card, like depending what kind of game it is, the unlocks you get, and usually make you more powerful, and you're trying to just keep bettering yourself as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, I do have the roguelike kind of explanation written down here. So this is what it says on Wikipedia. So roguelike or roguelike is a subgenre of role-playing video games characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, and tile-based graphics, and permanent death of the player character. Most roguelikes are based on high fantasy narrative, reflecting their influence from tabletop role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons. Though the roguelikes beneath Apple Manor and Sword of Fargol predate it, the 1980 game Rogue, which is an ASCII-based game that runs in Terminal or Terminal Emulator, is considered the forerunner and the namesake of the genre, which derivate games mirroring Rogue's character or sprite-based graphics. These games were popularized among college students and computer programmers of the 1980s and 1990s, leading to hundreds of variants. Some of the better-known variants include Hack, NetHack, Ancient Domains of Mystery, Moria, Angband, Tales of Magial, and Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. The Japanese series Mystery Dungeon games by Chunsoft are inspired by Rogue, also fall within the concept of roguelike. So it's I guess the roguelike is something very specific, and I think what we're going to be talking about on the Switch is probably RogueLites, which I also, like I said, I was a bit short for time preparing the docket today, but they basically said that roguelites became kind of popular again in like the 2014-2015 period with Rogue Legacy, which obviously then took a step away from the turn-based combat, the kind of very pixelated graphics, even though it is, I think, pixel art, and the procedurally, well, no, I guess it does have it, but it was like mostly the turn-based graphics and the kind of, yeah. But yeah, so Rogue Legacy is then kind of seen as like being the creator of this rogue-lite subgenre of roguelites. And then after that, we had like games like Binding of Isaac, which then took like a twin stick. Yeah, and Spelunky, which took, I guess, traditional gaming genres like a twin stick shooter and a 2D platformer, and then also made them into roguelites. And I guess what you would say a roguelite is now is a game where you die often, but you any progress you make, you carry on into the next run.
In the chat, Kenny press F. Roguelike is permadeath. Roguelite is permadeath with upgrades that carry over to your next run.
That's a good way of.
So like Dead Cells, for example, or
Slay
Spire, technically.
Yeah.
All those games where you get upgrades as you keep moving, or you get better equipment as you keep moving on. It's not always the same run like one before, because it depends on what you have unlocked, changes, and you become more powerful.
Yeah. And I guess, that's a big difference. Like this, it's still like the procedurally generated thing stays the same too. But yeah, so what is your opinion on roguelites? Do you like playing them, Daff?
I love playing them. I really got hooked in the last year and a half around when Dead Cells and Slay Spire came out. Mm-hmm. I put in a lot of hours into them. I like those kind of games because each run is very different.
Yeah.
Like you won't have identical runs because like it depends on what you find in the game, like what cards in Slay Spire or what weapon you use. I know you just started playing Dead Cells on your last stream. Yeah. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I love it. Like I know I was teasing you a little bit about saying, "Oh, why didn't you tell me how good it was?" But it is like a great game. But yeah, like right now, like I've only done about 5 runs, I'd say at max, and it still feels very samey. Like obviously the levels are changing, but I haven't unlocked many weapons. Like I was focusing on my kind of like passive upgrades, so my gold and my potions. So right now it does feel very similar, but I can see how later on down the line that you get better weapons, and those better weapons help you get further. And that's what I love about roguelikes or roguelites, is that they're usually in like short bursts, like within a contained amount of time. So it's like I don't know, like I've been playing Slay the Spire, right, on Twitch, and each run lasts about 45 minutes, and I get about halfway through the second floor. So I know like the first time it's going to take me to beat the Spire, it's probably going to take me, I don't know, at least 2.5 hours. Like I'm not sure how many floors added to the Spire.
3.
3. So I'm getting about halfway. So let's say
Technically there's 4, but the 3 until you win. The 4th is when you need to defeat the heart, but it's not really needed.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. So it's probably, if everything goes well, it's probably going to take me an hour and a half to beat all three floors and beat the Spire, and then then the next part of the game starts. But it's like when you get good at a game like a roguelite, you can usually beat them a lot quicker. Like the guy that got me into roguelites is a YouTuber called Northern Lion, and he started off with Binding of Isaac, but then he got really into Gungeon and Slay the Spire. And it's just interesting seeing his progression from when the game comes out to him playing it, and kind of being where I am now, where I'm like, okay, a run takes 45 minutes and I die, to then being able to get a run beaten in like 20 minutes on Slay the Spire, or like half an hour on the Binding of Isaac or something. And that's kind of what I like about them, because there is not usually too much of a story to worry about. It's like you load it up, the mechanics are usually really sound in a roguelike as well. Or RogueLite, I should say. I keep saying the wrong one. And you're like, okay, I'm in for this section, see how far I can get. I die. I've got like 30 cells or whatever. I've unlocked something. I've unlocked new cards in Slay the Spire. I found a new item in Binding of Isaac. I've got enough credits now to buy a new gun in Gungeon. Like, I like that as like, okay, even if you spend maybe 5 minutes in it, you're making a little bit of progression. Whereas in like in an RPG, you might spend 5 minutes wandering around a field and not really doing anything, or not progressing the story. And that's kind of why I like roguelites. But like I said, they started to get to become popular recently, within like the last 5 or 6 years. Why do you think they've become so popular?
I think it's because a lot more a lot more indie developers, because it's not a huge, in a way they're easier to make, because you don't need to make a huge game like an RPG.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, like, you can make smaller amount of worlds and just work on progression.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think became popularized with, like you said, like Rogue Legacy and all those. So a lot of these companies were like, let's tap into that idea. Like, let's put a unique spin on it.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of the ones that like are out right now are not just pure roguelite. Like, they're take platformer and take a roguelite,
Mm-hmm.
take Metroidvania, and here's Dead Cells.
Yeah.
Here's take card battling and roguelite, and here's Slay the Spire, right? Or like Darkest Dungeon is a roguelite in a way.
True. Yeah.
Like, but the bigger one, but in ways it's taking a roguelite but making it more of a longer game than just like
that's
one run.
That's why I think they've become so popular, is because it gives like indie developers a way to be like, well, okay, we have like so much content in our game now, because every run is procedural and every run is different. So it's like, well, you want to sell your game for $20 or $15 or whatever, however much an indie game costs. I'd say usually between $15 and $20. And it's like, well, to a buyer, sometimes it's a bit like, well, do I want to spend $15 on a story-based game that I'm going to play once, or do I want to buy a roguelite where I can play the game over and over again endlessly if I wanted to? Like, you're going to get to a point where you've unlocked everything, but then still you can still keep playing and time yourself. And I think that's why they've become so popular, because a lot of indie developers have started to see, okay, well, I have this game that is in this genre, but I can do these things to make it roguelite and make it kind of endless. And I think the obvious example is Void Bastards, because it's a first person shooter set in space, and it's like, well, that mixed with a roguelite doesn't really make any sense. But the way that they've done it is really clever. How it's kind of like a loot shooter, and the loot that you loot is kind of like it has two tiers to it. There's like loot that's kind of throwaway, and then there's loot that's like really important. And then the important loot that you get, you can then use to upgrade your weapons or build new weapons. And then that's the roguelike element, is that you then take those weapons onto your next run, and the weapon is better at killing this enemy, so you clear rooms quicker, and you progress faster and progress further. And I think that's kind of what's really exciting about roguelites, is that we've really scratched the surface of what different gaming genres could be roguelites. And I think that's really cool, because it's kind of like maybe there is in the end like a story-based RPG that is a roguelite, in the sense that, well, every time you play it, the story is slightly different, or depending on, well, I guess RPGs are kind of like that anyway, but depending on the fights, it kind of changes, and then when you go into the next, when you die and you create your next character, you have different items or different things that have happened in the past have changed the world, kind of like a bit what Swords of Ditto tries to do.
But also, like, it also more in the story, right? Like, you look at something like Minute.
Yeah.
It has that like roguelite 1 minute time. It's actually shorter, but more in stories. Or even like shoot, I always get Outer Wilds in a way.
Yeah.
It's like it's exploration in a way, but it has a roguelite element of you trying to redo that. You start from the beginning again, and now with all your new knowledge, you can figure out the world. And there's some roguelites that are like that, which is you're knowing more about the world, so that helps you progress. Or there's ones like Dead Cells, where it's like you're also trying to beat yourself. Like you're trying to improve your own record, right? Like, let me go inside Spire. Can I go through the spires quicker than before?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're challenging. There's also a point of you're challenging yourself, right? Not just beating the game. You're trying to beat your old score.
Yeah.
And that's why the games like with leaderboard chasing works well, especially games like Slay the Spire, where like they do daily challenges. They do all that. Where like I can go back and like, yes, I've played that game for probably 500 hours, but the daily challenge is unique boosts that everyone has, and then like, let me see how far I can get, how well I can do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's those kind of games too. It's like, yes, I can unlock things like, and even then it's like, what I like about Dead Cells is you can unlock so much, but the problem is when you unlock everything, like I did my first time I played, it actually makes the game harder, because the pool of weapons you can find is so much bigger.
Yeah.
That the weapons I like I might not find, because I have 10 other weapons I unlock, because like, why not?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like also choosing how you want to progress. What do you want to do? Like for me, it's like, and that's I always have the same. I always use the same 3 powers.
Yeah.
So I don't want to unlock the other ones, because that's useless stuff for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's also similar to a game like that's also it. I think like roguelites, they usually mechanically are all really good. Like the mechanics, because that's all you're doing is endlessly playing the same game over and over and over. Then the mechanics have to be good. And it's like when you look at you look at Isaac, you look at Gungeon, Slay the Spire, Dead Cells, even like games like you say, like Minute, like it controls well, especially Minute, because you only have a minute to live. You're like, okay, I want to exactly do the thing that I want to do, otherwise I'm wasting time. And I think that's the reason for me is why I like them, is because I feel like they're all solid games that you never think about like, oh, well, I died because the game messed up. It's always like, well, I died because my skill wasn't good enough. And it's like, and that's why I enjoy playing them. And even on Slay the Spire, it's like you can have a run that's going perfectly well, and then you come up to an enemy that you've not fought before, and you're like, okay, how do I play this? And you make the wrong play, and you're like, oh, well, I'm dead now. Like, you're like, well, yeah, but I've kind of feel like I've learned how I should beat this enemy, and then the next time you come, you beat them and progress more and more and more. And and that's kind of the cool thing about roguelites, which I really like. But yeah, so I guess we should start listing off what some of our favorite roguelites are on the Nintendo Switch, and the people in the Twitch chat also, please feel free to list some of your favorite roguelites in the chat. I'd be interested to see what you guys enjoy. We can start off with the Gaming Contrarian. He says, I liked that in The Binding of Isaac, after a couple of victories, the game suddenly becomes harder by design. It even gives you a message, this game is now harder than before. But yeah, and that's kind of cool as well. I always feel like roguelites, they have a lot of secrets in them. which is kind of is cool. So I've made a list of about 15 games. I'm sure there's plenty I've missed. I'm actually going to look at
I've added 2 of them.
You've added some, okay? Yeah, because like I say, I was kind of running out of time, but I'm also going to look through the eShop whilst Daft talks. So Daft, do you want to kind of give us your first pick on the list?
For me, it's gonna be Slay Spire, probably.
I thought so.
I think I put so much hours into that game. I have between Steam and on my Switch, and I think realized I think another reason why roguelikes became so popular is because of Nintendo Switch and how people play Nintendo Switch. Of I only have 30 minutes or 40 minutes on my ride to work or whatever. Let me play a game.
Yeah.
And roguelikes is a perfect game of I feel like I've actually accomplished something in those 40 minutes on my travels, right? And I think that's another reason why these kind of games are very popular, because of that idea of I can do something that's short period of time.
Yeah.
As I said with an RPG, it's okay, I can grind out a level, but the satisfaction of me grinding out a level is not the same as beating a boss in that time frame. But yeah, for me, Slay the Spire, and then for sure Dead Cells are my top 2.
Yeah. But what is it about Slay the Spire? Because I think anyone who looks at Slay the Spire who's not a gamer would kind of be like, what is this game? I don't get what the hype is about it. Because you're basically playing cards, right?
Yeah, your cards are attack or defense, right? Your cards are... It's the idea is you always start off with the same card deck. You always have the same deck when you start the game. But it is that when you unlock cards, you find those cards as you go along, either through beating enemies or through the shop.
Yeah.
And then you can be, and the idea is, again, I was kind of saying with Dead Cells, is your inventory becomes so much bigger, but the problem is you don't want to keep collecting everything because you are just it's also deck management.
Yeah.
Right? There's people who win that game with 3 cards in their deck because it's there's ways of cycling, right? It's having you're trying to remove all the crappy cards they give you at the beginning while replace them with cards that make sense.
Yeah.
And because another thing, because there's 4 characters in that game, a lot of them have different ways of winning.
Yeah.
So one of them is the Silent, who is the thief, the rogue in it. Is you can either win by poison or you can win by doing a lot of small attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing is that depending on who your final boss is, those ways may not work, because one of the final bosses you can make after 12 plays, your turn ends. Or even if you have in 3 turns you play the 12th card, your turn there automatically ends.
Yeah. So
that can hurt you. That's why I played 11 times before and I have 1 turn and that turn, I'm screwed. I can get hit for 50 damage, let's say. Right? So it's just that there's so many different ways of playing that game, because there are cards at the end, but there's so many different ways of how to help you, depending on what artifacts you get, what cards you find.
Yeah.
You need to change your playing style constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You're never playing the same way.
Yeah.
You're always changing it up.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many variables that change runs, and also you have random events that also totally change what your plan is. That's what I experienced one run where I came up against I think it's called the Toxic Skull or something, where he takes health from you in exchange for a potion, gold, or something. Maybe
you're talking about those, yes.
And when you leave, you try and he takes health too. So I was like, oh well, yeah. I think I had 16 HP left, and I said, oh yeah, I want to take the gold because I had a shop next. I knew I had a shop, but then it came up again. I had the same choice, and I had to keep taking. I just keep having to choose, and then eventually after 3 choices I died because I'd run out of health, and I was like, oh well, great, something is something that you can't really plan for, which I think is cool as well. It's these random events that sometimes happen.
Yeah, exactly. Some are really good and some are really bad.
Yeah,
there's one where you get the I forget what relic it is. It's the you have to lose health or you have to take a negative for it.
Yeah.
But if you have that relic and you meet it later on, that relic becomes really good. Whereas thing the relic does is at the beginning you get more gold, but then it's the end when you upgrade, it's you heal yourself when you get gold. So and that's what I like about the game, because it changes every single run. It's completely different, and you have to change the way you play it. So it's not every time I go into it, I'm okay, I gotta do the same thing all over again, right? I'm not just throwing the same cards out, or I'm not thinking the same way. And each character is very unique. Right? The first character is very simple. It's here's defense, here's attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I played with the silent for the first time on Friday night, and I was like, oh, I feel like this is my character, because I like the damage over time for, for the
Yeah.
poison. So I'm like, yeah, okay. In my brain, I'm like, okay, then I just need to take lots of poison cards, and any cards that have anything to do with poison, I should be taking them. And for that, it makes it a lot easier to understand. Okay, I'm building like a deck, and I'm building a strategy, instead of being like, oh, this card sounds good, I'll take that, which I was kind of doing with the Ironclad a lot. But
My
yeah,
favorite is Defect.
which one's is that? The blue
The
one?
Defect, the robot, yes, the blue
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay, I've not tried it yet, but
He's really good. I like him a lot because he's, again, very unique.
yeah,
And I think that's what I think that game does really well, is that each character is very unique. Like they just did the game very well. They made a smart way of taking a roguelite and putting it with a card game, and I think if you like roguelites or you like card game, this is perfect fit for both of you.
yeah.
Like, it's very simple to get into if you see the mechanic, and like that's what hooks you.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely that. But I don't know if you've ever heard of a game called Grifflands, but you should maybe look that up on Steam, because that's also like a Slay the Spire, but with more of a story in it.
I think that's made by Clay, right? The guys who made Don't Starve.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. But anyway, whilst you do that, because I think you were kind of getting into it a little bit, is with like synergies, where you unlock a weapon or an item or a card, and it works well with another card that you already have, and like I think that's also a very important part of roguelites, and I think the roguelite that maybe doesn't do it the best, but I'd say does it the second best is Enter the Gungeon. And I think Enter the Gungeon, it has a cool story, and kind of like a long story, because I think when the game came out, everyone wanted it to be like, okay, this is the next Binding of Isaac. Like the developer Dodge Roll said, oh yeah, it's inspired by the Binding of Isaac. And I think when it first came out, it was trying to be like a bit of an Isaac clone. And I think it got kind of a lot of like kind of backlash about that, because they were like, yeah, it's this really cool idea that you are entering a dungeon and the only weapons you have are guns, but each gun is like themed differently. So there's like a gun that fires anvils, or there's a gun that's shaped like a shotgun pellet or bullet or whatever you call it, but it fires shotguns and stuff like that. And then there's also like a lightsaber gun and a machine gun, and it had all these cool ideas. It just wasn't really executing on them. And I'd like to say, whilst we're here as well, actually, in the Twitch chat, thanks so much, Let's Switch Games, for gifting Bunsy a sub. That's really nice of you. Thanks. It kind of started off with promise, but I think a lot of people felt like it kind of didn't live up to the hype. But then the devs just kind of went back and worked on it, and now I think after 3 or 4 massive expansions, it's like a totally different game, but one that is also very similar to how it was. And I just love Gungeon because it's simple. It's a twin stick shooter with a dodge roll basically, but there's just so much stuff in it that you can do. Like when you at the end of every floor, you kind of crawl through the dungeon, find the boss, kill the boss. But it's like if you beat the boss without taking any hits, then you get like an extra heart, so you get more health to go into the next stage. And I think it's just like these little things like that make it so addictive, because you kind of like, okay, I need to learn how to perfect this boss, because if I don't perfect it, then I'm gonna every time keep losing a chance to get more health. And it's just like a great game. Like I have to be honest, I don't think the Switch version is the best version, because I think it's locked at 30 frames, which is a bit jarring after playing it at 60. Because you kind of want those like little like iframes or whatever, especially when you're dodge rolling and stuff. But nevertheless, it's still like a game where I could sit down and play it for 10 minutes, or I could sit down and play it for 5 hours, and still just be like having fun. And like I love roguelikes, but I'm just not that good at them. And I think the furthest I got is I beat the third boss on Enter the Gungeon, which was like back then was the tank. But it's just so addictive to just dive in, hopefully beat a couple of bosses, get the credits, and then take the credits back, go to the shop, buy some new weapons, and then see those new weapons come up in the dungeon or in the Gungeon, I should say, and just progress a little bit. And it's also a game that it has like some story to it and some lore, which is kind of cool too. Like you have to beat the Gungeon and find the gun that turns back time or whatever, and then there's also like we said, there's like lots of secrets where you can end up like doing like a punch out mini game in there to beat a boss. So definitely on my list is Enter the Gungeon is one of my favorites. But yeah, do you want to go next?
Sure. And for me, it's gonna be Dead Cells, 100%.
Thought so.
Dead Cells is, again, it's the same idea. And what I like about it, especially from the progression of when the game started to what it came out, what it is now, the idea that it has some Metroidvania aspects into it also, where depending on what you unlock and what powers you unlock, can bring you to different floors.
Yeah.
Like you play and be like, oh, I can't go up here, or I can't go down, I can't break this yet. So, okay, or I can't interact with this. And then in another level, you'll find an elite that gives you that power.
Yeah.
So it means the next time you go through, you could go another way and find another whole new world. Especially now, there's completely different world, and the fact of now you can either go through the map slowly and kill every enemy and get cells that way that power you up, or try to go through race through the level, and then at the end there'll be doors you can now unlock because you beat that level in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
For example, and that gives you cells and a better weapon usually, and maybe a blueprint, and then that gives you enough to unlock more weapons or more powers. Because that was cells used for a game. It's the kind of what you use for to make yourself unlock stuff, and then you get more currency, which makes you can buy stuff in that run to give you better weapons, right, from the stores or from wherever. That idea so each way playing it, you can either take it meticulously and killing all enemies to get all your cells and money, or run through it and at the end unlocking a room gives you like 20 cells and I forget how much gold and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they changed it. I forget how they changed it, but I remember back in the day when you're defeating a boss, I think it always gave you like a golden weapon, which is like, again, because also you level up, and depending on what scrolls you find, so you can choose like I want to add it to strength, to health, or to I forget the third one now. That helps you more with the traps and make your traps more powerful.
The
purple one there.
Yeah, I've forgotten his name as well.
And then certain weapons work on one of those 3 stats, right? So each one you might be leveling different depending on what weapons you find during your run.
Yeah.
And then also unlocking bigger health potions, how much gold you can bring back in your next run, which is huge, right? If I can bring back 10,000 gold, it means that first run, if I find a shop, I can get more powerful quicker.
Yeah.
Or getting a random weapon to drop at the beginning, except for the basic ones.
Yeah.
And if you might like bow and arrows, you might like playing with a shield, and like that changes your game. That changes how you play. Even the weapons you get changes how you play. Because I can get a quick weapon or I can get a hammer, and I need that game. I play completely different depending on what weapon I have. And then I think the first time I ever played it, I got to the final boss, my first run ever. I got destroyed, but then it took me forever to get back there. And then when I got back there, I beat it. And then what happens when you beat the boss, you get cells that make the next run harder if you use it.
Okay.
And that's how the game changes. Is depending on what you use and when you defeat the bosses, you get different. Like it changes the way the gameplay. Yeah. Again, them too. They have a daily challenge and stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, like I agree with you. Like it's a great game. It's like a great Metroidvania as well, because like you said, you sometimes get these upgrades that are permanent from like those ritual altars or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because you're going through the mapping, like, okay, I can see I need something, like, with the walls that are close together. It's like, okay, I must get something like a claw or something that lets me hang onto the walls and jump back and forth.
Or a double jump or whatever.
Yeah, or like the vines that you can send up.
Yeah.
And it's just cool because you're kind of running through it, and like you said, you can play it meticulously and go down every crevice and search every corridor and find, maybe some enemy or a chest that's worth something, or you can just sprint through. And that's what was kind of interesting when we were streaming it, because my first run to get to the boss, it took me about 25 minutes because I was just going through and looking for everything, and then there was about 15 minutes before the end of the stream, and I was like, okay, I want to get back to the boss. So we were kind of laughing like, oh, Adam, let's see if you can get to the first door in under 2 minutes, like on the next stream or whatever. And when I did that second run, I was just beelining it to the end of the level, and like I didn't get the first door, but then I got the second one, which was under 8 minutes. And half an hour before when I was playing, I was like, there's no way anyone can get here this quickly. But it's kind of like cool that it does give you options to do that if that's what you want to do. And and then we got back. I don't think I reached the boss the second time, but I got pretty far into the is it the ramparts, the level?
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, it's so cool that I didn't have to spend another 45 minutes or 25 minutes getting back to where I was. So yeah, I like that the game definitely gives you a lot of options. There's some lore in it. Yeah, there's lore in it. Like for me, I have no idea what's going on. I just realized that you're this prisoner and this thing is possessing your body and using your body, and there seems to be a lot of other prisoners around that don't want to talk to you right now. So I'm also like getting into that, which is cool. And also, yeah, for Dead Cells, like it just looks amazing as too. Like I think the pixel art looks great, especially when you get to the Black Bridge and it's the reflection on the water and kind of the boats with the sails kind of flapping in the wind. Yeah, it's a great game.
And it handles really well too. Like it's one of the smoothest games. Where like I feel like every time I click a button, and it's like cool too. The one if you stream it from Steam, or there's Twitch connection with it, where your like audience can change the way the game plays.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So there's a few things like that where it actually adds a uniqueness to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I think that those developers, and also I like props. Those developers paid everyone the same amount, no matter what job you had in that company. Oh, really? At least at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. When a game was made, everyone in that company was making the same amount.
Huh. That's interesting. Cool. So Dead Cells is definitely on there. I think maybe we should start just picking up the pace a little bit when we're talking about them, Daft. So the next one for me is The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth.
For sure.
A game I would argue kind of alongside Spelunky kind of sprouted this new genre of roguelite. Very heavily influenced by the original Zelda games, and when you hear that, you kind of think, that doesn't make any sense. But when you actually see them side to side, it's kind of similar. You go in, you're shooting bullets, and you're going from like a room to room basis in a dungeon, but the dungeon's just procedurally generated. Again, has a lot of secrets, has a lot of like progression. There's like 1,000 ways to play it. There's a lot of like different kind of challenges to do for each character. When it first came out, they did all like this secret kind of, there's this secret character, and people had to do stuff in real life to actually unlock it, which was really cool too. And I did an episode of Desert Island Cartridges for the Switch Island, and I talked about it. So if you're interested in listening on my kind of full like hour-long rant about the Binding of Isaac, excuse me, then look up the Switch Island, Desert Island Cartridges. But next one for you, Daft.
For me, I guess it'll be Darkest Dungeon.
Okay.
I love that game. I got into it recently. I think it plays way better on PC. I think on any console, because I have it now on PC, Switch, and PS4. On console, I feel like the controls are not really well done in terms of like going through stuff. But regardless, playing it on Steam, I like it because it feels like it's like a bigger game of smaller runs.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's upgrading your characters and hoping you don't go insane, and it's like planning out how I'm going to go through that dungeon, who am I going to bring, do I need a healer, and it's like during that gameplay, like things that go very wrong really badly, and it's also like not being too cocky. Like you can't be cocky again. It's like, I'm going to go and destroy everything.
Yeah,
because you get one bad spell and your main character goes insane, or you take your main character and move them to the back of your line. Yeah. So your guy who has the shield and the sword are pretty much useless, and you have to take turns to bring them back to the front. It's like that whole idea of how to place my characters, what attacks they have because of the placement, or it's like at the end of each run, okay, he lost faith, so I need to bring him to the church, or I need to bring him he needs to go to the bar to have a few drinks to get back.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like the game feels is a really interesting, bigger game that has a lot of roguelite stuff inside it that makes it complete.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like there's no there's no
Yeah,
messing
yeah.
around in it. Like I remember when I first played it on Steam when it came out, I was a bit like, I had a run and I got to the first kind of mini boss and all my party got wiped and I was like ready to flip the table. I was like, oh, I'm not playing this game again. This is stupid. How can they make it this hard? But then I got back into it on the Switch and I was like, I just feel like it's so much. I enjoy playing it more on the Switch because I have it on my light, and I'm just laid on the sofa, kind of relaxing and playing it. And you're right, the controls on console are like really, but I'd say they're bad. They're pretty bad. Like the Switch you can use the touchscreen, which makes it easier, but it's still compared to the PC, they are bad controls. But yeah, it's the same, and it's just again, like I say, I love like roguelikes. You can you're getting a bit of progression, and sometimes in Darkest Dungeon you don't get any progression. Like your team will get wiped and you get set back like 4 hours or whatever because you're like, okay, now I have to start with a new team, grind them up to get to whatever level my other ones are at. I have to make sure all of their ailments are fine and that they have no debuffs. And that game is very brutal in the sense of it being like a roguelite, a roguelike, in the fact that you can get set back to zero pretty quickly, even if you've been playing for 30 hours. Like you can get messed up bad. But I think also people like that about the game, and they like that difficulty, especially nowadays when everyone says games are too easy.
But also the idea is that it's like your game can still progress. Yeah, you lose some characters, but the whole overall arching game still continues.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just like, okay, well, I need to and it's also because you, at certain points when they level up, you can bring those characters into easier dungeons.
Yeah.
So like you're always having a team, and then you bring up, and also then you're upgrading the town and making it easier to keep your fighters happy and stuff.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
I just think it's really well done, and I think that it has props of that idea of it's hard, but it's when you understand what's going on, you are engrossed and it draws you in, and like that's why I'm excited for the second one.
Yeah, definitely. So the Gaming Contrarian asks a question: if Darkest Dungeon is a roguelike, is XCOM one? It also has an overarching story, losing conditions, procedurally generated events, etc. Just wondering because I feel it's starting to become a blurry line. Yeah, I would say XCOM is also a roguelite in the sense that Darkest Dungeon it's usually the battle. I don't know if the battles are procedurally generated. if every battle is, they're not.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean, the closest for me would that be would be Into the Breach.
Yeah.
But I think, a lot, again, it's like saying like a lot of games borrow from different genres. For me, Darkest Dungeon is because you have short bursts of game, and that changes. You upgrade to town, and you keep bringing people in.
Yeah. I would say, I don't know. I would see XCOM as having like roguelite elements, but I guess it's more of a tactical RPG. But Darkest Dungeon, I would say, is a roguelike because it's like it does the thing right. It's procedurally generated dungeons. It's a dungeon crawler. It's turn based, which is what they said like roguelikes are like, and you are also having permadeath in the sense that your characters can get killed, and when they're dead, you have to start with new characters. And I know that's what XCOM's like too.
But XCOM is also turn-based permadeath, especially in hard mode. I think it's on the hard mode of XCOM. It could have more roguelike elements compared to, again, you can argue the same thing as like Fire Emblem's roguelike because you have permadeath, you have tactical.
Yeah.
It has all those same mechanics. But again, I think it's the idea that it's shorter bursts.
Yeah.
Like I'm going into Darkest Dungeon. The dungeon's 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm out. And technically, you are starting back again from the beginning because usually you have to keep. You're just getting more. You're leveling yourself up, and you're playing the same dungeon again.
Yeah.
Well, with XCOM, you're not going back playing that same.
You're progressing through like a story.
You're progressing the story.
Yeah.
Like Dark Dungeon, I feel like because you're doing the same. You're playing the same dungeons multiple times, and I think that's the biggest difference. Is that you are playing the same thing and getting better and increasing your
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But anyways, I think we can move on to another one.
Yeah, I'm a bit. I don't know which one I want to talk about. I think I'll talk about Wizard of Legend because I don't think you really know that much about it.
Oh, I know it. I've played, and I know it's Bungie's one of Bungie's.
Yeah, Bungie said about
favorite.
Okay.
Roguelike.
Well, I'll talk about it anyway because again, I feel like this was a roguelike that came out like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 I'd say.
Yeah, I think early on Switch Life it came out.
Yeah, and it kind of came out to like this huge kind of hurrah, like, oh yeah, this is a great rogue
2018. Yeah.
Yeah. And because it was kind of also a bit like, I think because of how the combat worked, the combat was kind of like Dead Cells, like very, I guess, but before Dead Cells became really popular. It was very like fluid, and the idea is that you play as this wizard and you can control like elemental powers, and you are building your run on different elemental moves, and different elemental moves also have like synergies together. And it's the same thing. I think there's like 4 different levels that you go through. Each level has a boss at the end, and you beat the final boss, get like a lot of upgrades. You can change like your cloak. Your cloak gives you different buffs and different stats. But yeah, it's kind of, it is, at least when I played it, I thought it was like really good mechanically, as a sense of like the way the fighting worked. But the only thing that let it down for me was that I felt like at the time it was a very set like build that you wanted to have, where it's like, okay, I need this build to beat the game. Otherwise, yeah, if I mix up the powers, and I can't remember what the build was, I think it was like an electricity one. But it's like, yeah, if you wanted to ever mix up, it was like, well, there's no point because you're not going to get past this boss unless you have this power. And I think that's kind of what people like let people down with the game. That it was a bit like, yeah, all right, it's kind of like an equation, like you need this and this and this equals win the game, which I think people don't always like in a roguelike or a roguelite. It's like, okay, I wanna be challenged instead of just being like, okay, well, yeah, I just need to have these items and then I win. So I do want to talk about it because I think it's probably a lesser known one on the Switch,
and one has co-op.
And it has, yeah.
Which sadly is only couch co-op. It'd be nice having online, but the co-op mechanics actually makes it more interesting. Okay. Like, it's fun playing with friends.
Yeah.
I had a friend who got really addicted to it when it came out, and I remember playing. That's when I got it, because he was playing a lot, and we would play he would come over, we would play co-op once in a while.
That's cool. Good. So then your next one, Duff?
Sure. Let's look at the list again, because I had it. You said, for me, I guess it'll be Into the Breach.
Okay.
Into the Breach is, again, if you like those kind of tactical-based games with like grid systems and all that, it's really well done for that. The levels are very small, and again, you can get like party wiped quite easily, and you're trying to progress a map, but as soon as you die, you have to restart again. And there's different kinds of robots, and the idea of how you play how you use each one makes it very unique.
Yeah.
This is from the same developers who made FTL. I would say FTL, but it's not on Switch. Sadly. And I'm surprised it's not on Switch yet.
Yeah, me too.
Is everywhere else.
Yeah, it's one of those games that whenever I do like one of these most wanted game lists or something, like people always say FTL.
It's a great game. And
yeah, there's a guy who follows me on Twitter, and I think his name is when FTL on Switch. And anytime I write, oh yeah, this new game's coming to Switch, he's like, where's FTL?
Right, I think I got stuck in one of those tweets accidentally, not knowing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think Into the Breach is really well done. They're a very small team. I think only like 2 or 3 people. Mm-hmm. It's just very well done tactical shooter, based grid system gamer. Like, where the idea is like you see how the monsters are going to hit, and it's like, hey, how do I stop this? Like, I can punch him out of the way, but the problem is if I do that, he might hit a building if I do that.
Yeah. And
then it's like you play your 3 robots go, the enemy's going, and you go again, and shit might happen during that one round of like, oh, here's a bigger monster, or here's something else that happens.
Yeah.
So I think that one's like, if you like like XCOM or Fire Emblem, those kind of like games, I highly recommend it. They're again, each round is like 10 minutes long. But yeah, I from sure that one.
Yeah, I have to admit I've not played it. I have the game, and it's kind of ironic because I'm pretty sure it won Game of the Year for Switch Indie Fix like 2 years ago, like for the voted Game of the Year. But no, I think I'm going to check it out because I'm kind of on also a bit of like an RPG, tactical RPG fix after Fire Emblem.
And I know I was gonna say, yeah, you just played Fire Emblem, and
Yeah.
you've been liking some roguelites. I think it's also a great game to play on stream because it's they're quick and you can actually ask people, what should I do my next move?
Yeah, that's
Whatever.
true. Yeah. But yeah, Gaming Contrarian. No, don't worry about the question. That was a good question, and yeah, I'm glad it's on your mind because I think it comes out at the end of the month. Oh yeah, and Mark, I'm just gonna answer that question at the end of the show. Okay. Good. So then next up for me, I'm gonna talk about Void Bastards, which I think is the newest roguelite we have on our list. And yeah, it was a game that like I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew it was a shooter with roguelite elements, but actually it's like a really solid game. It's you if you imagine, I guess you could kind of say it's like a dungeon crawler but in space, and instead of going from room to room, you're going from spaceship to spaceship, and going through looking for loot. Like I said before, there's like 2 tiers of loot. There's like loot that you need to refuel your ship and food to give you energy, but then there's also like higher level loot, which are parts for weapons, which you then craft and then can build new weapons or new items, which are both like passive and active, and then those help you in the next couple of runs. And it's just a cool game because it's, in the sense, it's just totally, at least what I've played, and I've not gotten very far in it, but it is just mechanics based. You like going from these ships to ships, shooting enemies, blowing stuff up, and trying to get this loot and get out. And it's just really like I said, it's so mechanically driven that you're like, okay, I know what to do. But the game itself has such like a charm to it, and the way that the humor, like it's very kind of, I'd say like kind of a bit like potty humor, if you know what I mean, where you're like, okay, there's a lot of swearing and a lot of like name calling, but the actual idea is that you are playing as like this packet sealed, like dried mix human being that they just pour out and add with water, and then a human grows. And every time you die, they just create one of these new humans, and each human has like a different attribute, which can be positive or negative. And then I think you also have different stats. And like I said, then the weapons from each run pass over. So if you unlocked a decent weapon in the last run, you can use that straight from the get go in your new run. And yeah, it's just like I said, it's kind of like like the genre, like the battle royale genre, always was with shooters. And like now the battle royale genre is kind of like spreading out. I think this is also like the case with the roguelite genre, where it's not just a twin stick shooter anymore or a platformer. Now it's like, okay, it's a first person shooter, and as to my knowledge, it's like one of the first ones on the Switch, and I think it's definitely worth trying out, Void Bastards, if you haven't done so already.
For sure. My next one will be Moonlighter.
Cool.
Moonlighter, I think, has interesting, again, like it has rogue, like, yeah, like you're going to dungeon, you are collecting scraps, you're collecting goods, and you're getting better. And then the idea is that you're selling the stuff you find, and that mechanic of selling stuff is really unique.
Yeah.
Like the idea of like, oh, how much do I price this? And it's like when people come in and you can tell by how they are, like happy face or sad face, like, oh, I overpriced it or I underpriced it, and making the town better and going back in, getting stronger, going back into the dungeon, collecting more. And it's like, how far should I go? Because if I'm correctly, that if you die, you lose more items. Yeah. Then you may want to go in and be okay. Let me let me cut my losses at this moment.
Yeah, that's
like,
it. It's kind of like you can get out whenever you want. It just costs you money, right? You can get out of the dungeon.
And that idea, and that like, and then selling the stuff, going back in and keep doing that. Like it's a nice, fun, little like cycle, and it handles well. And you're like, the graphics are really interesting. I like them, and the developers have been adding a lot to that game as it progressed.
Yeah.
Like I think the update came out recently, or there's one coming out. I think it already came out, if I'm correct. But yeah, so I really enjoy it. I should go back to it. Actually, I haven't played a long time, but it for sure has the hook. When you start playing it, you get the hooks, and it gets hooks into you.
Yeah. Cool. Then I will I guess I'll talk about Minute, which is also we spoke about it a bit before, but the idea behind the game is that you have a minute to live, and after you hit a minute, your character dies, and you start from your like home base again. And I think it's kind of like a bit like the original Zelda games, where it's top down like 2D pixel art, but it's like on like monochrome, it's like black and white, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like an unusual game, but it's so well designed because the idea is like you have a minute in your first life, you just run around and talk to people and trying to work out what the next step is. And it's kind of funny because the game messes you with a little bit where you go and talk to a turtle and the turtle talks really slowly and you can't exit out or speed up it. So you're like, oh, okay, don't talk to the turtle. But then he might give you some information where it's like, oh, there's a key hidden behind the bin. And then you go to the bin, open a door, and then when you've opened that door in your life, it stays open for the next life. So then you might die, in your next life respawn, then run through that door. It opens up a shortcut to like a hotel. And then you go in the hotel room and then you can sleep on the bed, and then that is like your new checkpoint. And the idea of the game is you're trying to solve this mystery of why this nuclear waste or this pollution is in this river, and you're just doing it a minute at a time. And it probably takes you like about an hour to beat the game. But it's just so clever how it's all interwoven, and it reminds me of like these retro games where, you know, when you like zoom out from the games and you can see like the whole map is kind of like mismatched together, and that's what the game reminds me of, because you're like, okay, well, now I've got this, I know I need to get back over there, but to do that I need to kind of like take this shortcut that gets me across the map quicker because I only have a minute to live. And it's a roguelite in the sense of that you're dying all the time, but whatever progress you've made stays, you know, like the doors stay open or like the weapons you find stay. But it's just, I guess in its simplest terms, is like, you are just redoing the same thing over and over until you get to your end goal, in which the game ends. But yeah, it's a really good game, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, so I think those are probably our top 10. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
You can talk about. I think we've hit a good amount.
Yeah.
I think we have some comments from listeners we can go through.
We do. Do you want to just can you look at the comments or not?
Yeah, sure. You can do one read ones off the doc, and I'll look at the comments.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, yeah. So we did ask on social media what people's favorite RogueLites were. So Hopple from Discord says, my top 3 of that kind of games are Moonlighter, Children of Morta, which I guess a lot of people are kind of like fuming that we haven't talked about, and Dead Cells.
I never played it, honestly, so I can't really talk about it. And I think neither. We did talk about it when we had Geo on, because he brought it up. Yeah, and that's why I bought it then, and I never played it. But I should get. And
I think it's on sale now as well on one of the eShops, because they just released a big patch for that, or a big update for that. Smart Tweeter says Dead Cells by quite a margin. Vegan Game says Enter the Gungeon. At Bill Gill says super into Mana Sparks right now and picked it up for 89 cents in the sale last weekend. So if you're looking for a cheap roguelite to kind of get your toes wet, then check out Mana Sparks. The Switch Islands say Slay the Spire all day. Mizume says there can be only one Dead Cells. Nindy Nexus Mike says Tangle Deep, which I did want to just kind of read into, because we do have a review on it, and the review got an 8 out of 10. So let me just read the summary for Tangle Deep. So this is written by Tyler Higgs, who is at Switch Atlantic, I think, on Twitter. So he says, I really enjoyed my time with Tangle Deep, and I hope to enjoy many more experiences with it. That's the kind of beauty of Tangle Deep. It's a roguelike worth playing. The entertaining battles, diverse job classes, and awesome environments to explore make this one of the most enjoyable roguelike experiences to date. Yes, many of us are a bit clunky and overwhelming, and there are some questionable design choices, but if you're willing to look past some dirt to see the gold, you will find Tangle Deep shines in 2 genres that have become very saturated. If you're looking for an awesome nostalgia RPG, then Tangle Deep is for you. If you're looking for a tense yet rewarding roguelite experience, Tangle Deep is for you. If you aren't a fan of either and you're not one for nostalgia, then even still give Tangle Deep a shot. It might just win you over. And he gave it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, Tangle Deep's another one where I haven't played it, but people talk about it a lot whenever I ask about roguelites. So yeah, did you find any?
I have a question. There's a question from Let's Switch Games. Mm-hmm. You think there are too many roguelite games? Seems like there are a few released every week. I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier, that for devs, it's they're a great way of doing it because they don't have quite a huge game, but you can get a replayability, which a lot of people look seek. And I think especially for the Switch, that idea of having replayability, and going back to it and wanting to go back to it helps. Because especially nowadays, on the Switch, playing a 40-hour, 100-hour RPG is usually not the place I want to play that.
No.
Most of the time, I like having these smaller experiences. Whereas I'm going and say, "Oh, I need to go to work. I have 40 minutes on the bus or metro." That kind of game is perfect.
Yeah.
I can do a run in it, put it away, come back to going home and knowing where I left off.
Yeah.
How many times do you play an RPG, you put it away, and you go back to it, like, what did I do last? What quest was it? Where was I? I could go back to Dead Cells and 2 months later and be like, cool, I can pick it up and play. Cause I don't need to worry about what happened in that game 5 months ago when I played it last.
Yeah, I was talking to John, who is what's his Twitter, Gaming in the Wild, and he's also on Twitch as well. And he was saying he doesn't like roguelikes because he doesn't like the feeling of dying all the time. And John's a very laid back, a lot of the games he plays are very chilled kind of experiences where you don't really have many goals to do. You're just okay, what do I want to do today? Okay, today I want to walk to that mountain. And so he was saying that he doesn't like roguelites because of that. And again, the Gaming Contrarian in chat says that some of his favourite roguelites are One Step from Eden, which is another game I wanted to talk about. I would say that's an honourable mention. I've not played it yet, but I've watched quite a bit of YouTube on it, and that kind of is another game where it's a roguelite in a different genre. It's based on the Mega Man Battle Network games. But yeah, they're definitely cool. He also says Darkest Dungeon, Crypt of the Necrodancer, Enter/Exit the Gungeon, 20XX, and Everspace. What's your thoughts on Crypt of the Necrodancer, Dav?
I never played that one. I only played Cadence a bit.
Right.
I'm not into those kind of rhythm games, so I suck at those kind of rhythm games. So I like it. I like the idea, but it's pretty much. It's more of it's a very Zelda inspired one where the look of it and all that. Just that I can't do the rhythm stuff. Yeah,
same for me. I tried it because I wanted to get Cadence, but I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to spend €25 on it. So I bought Crypt of the Necrodancer for €3, tried it for half an hour. I was like, okay, this isn't for me. But so another honorable mention I would like to say is Hyper Parasite, which we had the devs on the Discord for an AMA, and I played it on my first ever stream. We played Hyper Parasite. That's also a fun roguelite, but yeah, I think compared to some of the others on this list, it doesn't do much different or new. It has a cool, interesting aesthetic, but I wouldn't say it's revolutionary anywhere. Is there any ones you'd like to give a nod to, Darth, before we rank our top 10?
Not really, because again, I've the ones I mentioned was I really played. I said Charlie Morta, I need to play. I know a lot of people like Risk of Rain too, sort of ditto. Those ones a lot of people talk about, and I guess should give them a chance. But I haven't really done much. I got Eagle Island, I have no clue what game that is, or Goner I know of but never played. There's so many different ones, and I think again it's kind of coming very, as people were saying, oversaturated subject, because I think a lot of indie companies see games like say Inspired Dead Cells doing it well, that they're trying to get in on this bandwagon, but you have to do it well to succeed, right?
Definitely, you can't
there's another one, Rogue Legacy, and then I'm excited for the second one. I played that one a bit, actually. I got it. It was on sale. And Bad North.
Bad North. I've not played that either. But yeah, that's a good shout too.
That's a fun one too. I played a bit of it when it came out.
Cool. Good. So, what are we saying for our top 10 then? So the 10 that we have, and this is just in the order that we spoke about them, is Slay the Spire, Enter the Gungeon, Dead Cells, The Binding of Isaac, Darkest Dungeon, Wizard of Legend, Into the Breach, Void Bastards, Moonlighter, and Minute. So, I don't know. For me, my number one would be Enter the Gungeon. But what about you, Daff? I guess yours is Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire, Dead Cells, I think. I think all of them are really hard. I think we're going to have an impossible time to actually rank these, because we're going to be go through this all day.
Yeah.
I think technically for me, I guess the originator for me is for me personally is The Binding of Isaac.
Okay. Yeah. Me too.
And I think that one should be. I think a lot of them came afterwards and used that idea of like, okay, it became popular again. People were talking about let's delve into a roguelite again.
Yeah. I'm kind of like looking at those top 5, and I feel like on any different day they could all be number 1.
For sure. Like,
but so let's kind of leave them as like, okay, roughly like Slay the Spire, Enter the Gungeon, Dead Cells, The Binding of Isaac, and Darkest Dungeon. It's kind of like a loose 1 to 5. What about the following 5 then? Which one?
I would put Void Bastards as 6.
Okay.
I think Minute at 10 because it is a roguelite, but it's a weird roguelite. Like, you're not really getting more powerful. The world's just enabling you to move quicker through it.
Yeah.
I think again, I'm kind of happy as that list now.
Okay.
I don't think we always had to change it. I think because we literally talked about our favorites as we went down.
Yeah.
We kind of created a list of 10. As you were going through it.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think we both like the top 5. We both like. If I didn't say Slay the Spire, you probably would have said Slay the Spire.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like there was no like. Yeah, we were kind of kind of. I kind of knew what you were going to say, and I think you kind of knew what I was going to say too. So so good. So this is our rough top 10 or the top 10 best roguelites on the Nintendo Switch. They are Slay the Spire, Enter the Gungeon, Dead Cells, The Binding of Isaac, Darkest Dungeon, Void Bastards, Wizard of Legend, Into the Breach, Moonlighter, and Minute. And yeah, that has been episode 53 of the Switch Indie Fix podcast. Thank you, Darth, for joining me. And thank you to all of the people in the chat. Thank you, Let's Switch Games. Thank you, The Gaming Contrarian. Thank you, Bungie. Thank you, BenjiCon popped in for a little bit. Thank you, Kenny Press F, and anyone else that was in the chat today. I'm sorry if I missed you. I'm scrolling through, seeing a lot of the same names. But yeah, if you were in the chat, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for Kenny Press F for following us on Twitch, and of course to Let's Switch Games for gifting a subscription to Bungie. For the listeners back home, if you do want to see me stream on Twitch, I stream every Friday night at 6 p.m. British Standard Time on twitch.tv/SwitchIndieFix. We also have Bastian. He streams Wargroove kind of on any other night that he feels like. So, the best thing to do is if you go to twitch.tv/SwitchIndieFix, follow us there and you'll get a notification every time we go live. As for the podcast, I'd like to say thank you for everyone that has been listening and supporting the podcast wherever you can. It's awesome to hear feedback from what you guys think. Like I said, thanks a lot, Darth, for joining me. It's been cool. I always love talking about roguelites.
Hopefully we get some more indie news soon, and
hopefully.
Can't think of the next big indie game that's coming out, but hopefully.
No. Me neither. Let's see. Hopefully June with E3 we'll get some new announcements.
E3.
Yeah. The summer of gaming or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
But of course, I'd also like to say a massive thank you to our patrons who are supporting Switch IndieFix at patreon.com/SwitchIndieFix. They are BenjiCon, Daniel Ward, Demiurge, MCK, Giovanni Pintamel, John Reviews Switch, my mum, my fiance, Kool-Aid Moonwalk, Runestorm, Smart Maltby, and Hopple. The podcast will be going up on Apple, Spotify, and other good podcasting apps, as well as YouTube, as soon as I can after the show. So if there's anything anyone in the live audience missed, you can listen to it there. Please be sure to give it a review wherever you listen to it. If it has a review function, that would be awesome. If you want to get in contact with me, you can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at SwitchIndieFix, or you can join Darth and I on the Switch IndieFix Discord server, which is at where, Darth?
SwitchIndieFix.com. .com/Discord.
Yeah, switchindiefix.com/Discord. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we'll see you all next time.